Testing.
Test. 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 one? Okay.
That,
Okay.
or you hit that, but that has. Your little light will come on. Okay. Comfortable with that? See, a little light will come on, and that'll be
There you go.
tough. And if you don't do that, then the streaming is not going to. Always know more than you do.
Check, check. Testing, yep. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We would ask at this time that you place your cell phones on silent. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the School Board Candidate Forum, sponsored by UNT County School District Number 1 and the Evanston Education Association. School Board candidates, we appreciate your willingness to serve the community of Evanston as a member of the school board. We wish you well in your campaign and on Election Day, Tuesday, November 6th. This forum is an effort to provide an organized platform for candidates to express their opinions on important issues facing education in our community. A series of questions will be asked of all candidates. The questions were selected from those submitted by the staff of UNT County School District Number 1 and the Evanston community. Special thanks to the leadership of the Evanston Education Association and UNT County School District Number 1 for sponsoring this forum, developing the format, and selecting the questions to be asked. Before we begin, a quick review of the procedures that the forum will follow. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond to the first question, including an opening statement. The order will be from left to right. Questions 2 through 8 will be asked in sequence, and the order will be by random selection, with all of the candidates given the opportunity to respond to each question. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond, except for question 7, where each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond. To conclude, all candidates will have 1 minute to respond to question number 9, including a closing statement, and that order will go from right to left. We ask that the candidates respect each other and the time limit that has been established. A timer will be visible, and when your time is expired, we will respectfully move on to the next candidate. You have been given a copy of the procedures, the questions, and a copy of the Pathway to Excellence strategic plan for your use. Good luck, and thanks again for participating. So we begin with Susie Erickson. Question number 1, it includes your opening statement. You'll have 1 minute. The question is, what are your top 3 reasons for running for school board? And please elaborate on at least one of those reasons.
Almost forgot to push the button. I was given strict instructions for that. Well, my name is Susie Erickson. I've been in Evanston for almost 13 years. Have 3 kids in the district. Next year I'll have 4. My main 3 reasons for running for the board are 1, to be an advocate for my children as well as other children in the district. Some people, just kids in particular, need someone that has their back and will root for them and communicate things. My second reason is to be an advocate for teachers, because quite honestly, without teachers, these kids aren't getting an education and we need to have their back. My third one is to help set visions and goals for the district to keep moving forward.
Thank you, Susie. We move to Cassie Torres. What are your top 3 reasons for running for school board? Please elaborate on at least one of those reasons.
Okay, so my top 3 reasons for running for school board is to continue to do the great work that this district has done over the last 4 years since I was elected. I want to support the district in the curriculum changes that have been made, some of the great things that we're doing, and just keep up the good work. I believe that a stable board will keep the direction of the district moving. I also want to continue communication. We've come a long way with communication in the community and with parents, but we still have work to do, and I want to continue that work. And kind of like Ms. Erickson said, I want to be an advocate for all students of all abilities, all backgrounds, and want to make sure that we're meeting everyone's needs. Thank you.
Cassie, thank you. Now to Rayanne Belknap, what are your top 3 reasons for running for school board? And please elaborate on at least one of those reasons.
Sorry, I won't forget that again. My name is Rayanne Belknap, and I have 2 students in the school district, one in 8th grade and one in 4th grade. And I'm going to I'll end with the most important reason why I'm running. First, I believe that in the climate of cuts that are coming to our district, I believe that's really important, and I really want to work with administrators and hear what parents have to say about those cuts and make sure that they really are happening the furthest from the classroom and our students. That's extremely important to me. I want to be a support to teachers. I want to get into the schools and talk to teachers and understand what it's like on the front lines. It's very different for me to come to the district or leaders in our district or to even teachers and understand completely what it's like to be a teacher. I'm a parent. Oh.
Thank you, Rayanne. We should note that 2 candidates unfortunately could not be with us this evening, Colt Hamilton and Mindy Swenson, but we will have prepared statements from at least one. We now move to Caleb Gill. What are your top 3 reasons for running for school board? Please elaborate on at least one of those reasons.
I'm Caleb Gill. The main 3 reasons why I'm running for school board is, and the first one's pretty simple. I had a lot of interested people in our education system that asked that I run for school board, which gives me a lot of confidence that maybe people have in me, and I appreciate their confidence in me. I also have a child, who is starting school this year, which obviously piques my interest in the education of my child. And then my third reason, I think maybe my most important reason at this point is the education and safety of the kids in this school district. If there's a way that I can help the community in any way, I want to be involved in that so that I can help wherever there's help to be needed.
Thank you, Caleb. We move to Krista Barker. What are your top 3 reasons for running for school board? Please elaborate on at least one of those reasons.
My name is Krista Barker. I have lived in this community most of my life and have 4 kids in the district, 2 in high school, 1 in middle school, and 1 at elementary school. So I feel like I have a very broad range there. Probably the top reasons for running for school board, one is to just be a voice and an advocate for our kids and for our teachers. I agree with Susie. If it wasn't for our teachers, our kids would really be in trouble. So I want to stay involved in my children's education. I've kind of watched a lot of flip-flop in the curriculum over the last 16 years, and I like that it's finally on kind of a right path, and I want to make sure it stays that way. And then I want to bring some hands-on learning back to the schools. I think the kids are missing out at the high school level in a lot of our labs, like our science labs, our chemistry labs, which we were talking about earlier, and art with our little kids. I want Emma to color again. So that's it.
Thank you, Krista. Chris Reno is next. What are your top 3 reasons for running for school board? Please elaborate on at least one of those reasons.
Hi, my name is Chris Reno. I've been in Evanston for about 8 years now. Prior to moving here, I lived in upstate New York. And I know people say, New York, oh my gosh. Well, it's actually way upstate on the Canadian border, and people are politically and socially very similar to what they are here. The towns are about the same size. They're just a little bit closer together than they are here. I moved out here for work. I have a very specialized accounting practice in the communications industry. I'm a certified public accountant. I'm a chartered global management accountant. I don't have any elected experience, but I do have volunteer experience on 3 economic development boards, on a church board. For 8 years, I manned a Stop Domestic Violence hotline. I'm out of time. I want to make sure that we maintain the pathway to excellence, and I want to help create a safe environment within the schools.
Thank you, Chris. David Peterson is next. What are your top 3 reasons for running for school board? Please elaborate on one of those reasons.
My name's David Peterson. I am a lifetime resident of Evanston, Wyoming, actually 5th generation. So my love for this school district runs deep in this community, and I want to see this school succeed and flourish. I do. I have a wife that has been teaching here for 30 years, and we've gone through the ups and downs and through different administrations. But if I have to pick 3 topics, I think budgets is kind of key, especially where we're at fiscally on some things, and the need to make sure that we maintain the budgets that we're within and that we don't exceed things and we don't overrun cost on things. The other thing is I am a firm believer in the CKA. I think it is very important that we protect our children. We need to protect them from evil, from those things that are out there, and part of that is not allowing evil into our schools, and we've done a great job up to this point, but one more tool is that of being able to arm some of our people that are highly qualified to be carrying concealed. The other thing is scheduling, and I'm out of time, but thank you.
Thank you, David. Jenny Welling is next. What are your top 3 reasons for running for school board? And please elaborate on at least one of those reasons.
Okay, I'm also very passionate about education here in Evanston. I've lived here for almost 40 years. I'm a graduate of Evanston High School. I've had 5 children in the education system, 3 of which have graduated and gone on, 2 of them to college. And I have a sophomore and an 8th grader. And so I'm not only passionate about my own children's educations, but I'm passionate about all children's education. I feel like the district has moved in a very positive direction in the last few years, and I'm very proud of our teachers and all of the administrators for being able to come together and do that. Like David, I'm also very passionate about protecting our children, not just having them have a good education, but making sure that it's a safe environment for them, and I'm also in favor of the CKA policy.
Thank you, Jenny. And finally to Russell Cox for our first question. What are your top 3 reasons for running for school board? And please elaborate on at least one of those reasons.
Hello, my name is Russell Cox. Evanston, let's see, we've been in Evanston now about 14 years. This go around, I have 3 children in school. Currently 1 a senior, so he really won't be in school for much longer. 1 sophomore and 1 in 8th grade. The reasons that I'm running for school board this particular time would be my kids first and foremost, for sure. The staff, the teachers at our schools, and our taxpayers, the neighbors and people in our community that really don't have kids in school, and try and be a voice for those people that maybe don't have as much input or as much knowledge as what's going on out there. Loads of different reasons, communication, transparency, there's all kinds of things I could come up with.
Thank you, Russell. We now move to question 2, and through our randomizer, we will start this round off with Krista Barker. Question 2, what do you believe are the roles and responsibilities of a school board member? What is your priority?
I think the roles and responsibilities of the school board are, I guess, first and foremost, to represent the community, listen to what the stakeholders have to say, and come up with rational decisions afterwards. I think it's important that we advocate for our kids, advocate for our students, or excuse me, our teachers, any of the stakeholders in the district, and then evaluating and planning for the future, whether that comes to the curriculum or the budget, whatever the case may be. I think we're there to kind of help guide it and make the final decisions with education behind it, you know, listening to everybody first. So.
Thank you, Krista. We move to Chris Reno. What do you believe are the roles and responsibilities of a school board member? What is your priority?
I think that the priority of the school board should be to help foster a safe environment. Not only a safe physical environment, but a safe emotional environment where people feel able to express themselves without harm to others and without fear of reproach. That goes for the students, the faculty, the staff, administration, and yes, also to parents. I believe that we should encourage a atmosphere of participation. We should be hearing people's voices, valuing their opinions and including them as much as possible and as many people as possible in the entire decision-making process. Thank you.
Chris, thank you. To David Peterson, what do you believe are the roles and responsibilities of a school board member? What is your priority?
I think the school board has to work directly with the superintendent. There's got to be that relationship with the superintendent because they work hand in hand. The responsibilities differ just a little bit from the school board and the superintendent. But the roles I go back to something that happened down in central Utah. My dad used to work for for the state of Utah, and there was this boulder out in the middle of this road. Picture it, it's the size of a house, and it's sitting inside the middle of this road. And there was an argument back and forth between the DOT and through the National Forest and through some other agencies, and they were saying, get your rock off my road. No, that's not your rock. And so there's a big thing that says, whose rock is it anyway? And I think that's what we need to focus on, is we need to work together and make sure that we partner and we work as a team with the teachers, student body, parents, community, and superintendent to achieve.
Thank you, David. Question 2 to Jenny Welling. What do you believe are the roles and responsibility of a school board member? What is your priority?
Okay, I also believe that the school board members need to represent the constituents as well, so we need to be able to be approachable and listen to them, even though we may not always agree, but we still need to be able to bring those points of view back to our meetings and come to the best solution that we possibly can. As far as the roles of a school board member, basically we are to set budgets and then work with the superintendent and staff members to make sure that those goals are being met and that we're sticking to that, especially in this time that we're in right now with cuts coming down from the state. It's been really difficult, and I think that as a district we've done a really good job, and kudos to the staff and teachers for being able to stick to that. It's our job to implement policies, make sure that the current ones are being followed. So.
Thank you, Jenny. We move to Russell Cox for question 2. What do you believe are the roles and responsibilities of a school board member, and what is your priority?
Roles and responsibilities for a school board member, in my opinion, a liaison between the community, the stakeholders, and administration. My priority would be to listen to the community, including the teaching staff and teachers, support staff, and the kids, getting that feedback and then bringing it back to administration and working out some common ground between the two. That's it.
Thank you, Russell. We now go back around, and question number 2 for Susie Erickson. What do you believe are the roles and responsibilities of a school board member? What is your priority?
All right. The roles and responsibilities of the school board, in my opinion, are, for one, to keep the budget in check, to ask questions between public, teachers, and administrators, and take people's answers and use them in decisions that are being made, to set visions and goals, to keep administration in check, and to move forward, to always, my priority honestly would be to just always try to move forward and strive to be better. Even if you're great and you have an A+ grade, you can always do better, and I believe a big part of that comes from the school board.
Thank you, Susie. To Cassie Torres, what do you believe are the roles and responsibilities of a school board member? What is your priority?
Okay, so the responsibilities of the school board as a whole is to develop policy, make sure that those policies are followed, to oversee the budget, make sure that we're spending accordingly, and to provide overall direction for the district. We're here to support the staff, every single person that we have obtain the direction that we're moving towards and obtain those goals. And I think that would be my #1 priority, is to really support our people reach those goals. Individually, As a member, I think we need to make sure we're open-minded. We're attentive to our constituents. We're able to remain even-headed during heated situations and really be able to weigh the pros and cons on everything that we're given. But ultimately, school boards are not here to micromanage. I am done.
Thank you, Cassie.
Can't finish that sentence. It was really good, though.
To Rhiann Belknap, what do you believe are the roles and responsibilities of a school board member, and what is your priority?
I do agree with the majority of the candidates running that our responsibility is to represent stakeholders in the school district. In the instance that I would be elected to the school board, my first priority would be to educate myself in so many things. I think there are so many things that I do not know when it comes to being on a board, but I am going to be ready and willing to learn in all different avenues. I want to reach in or be present in the schools and talk to teachers and understand what it's like to be a teacher in our district. I believe it's important that community members are able to voice their concerns to board members, and that I'm able to bring that back and work with the trustees on the board and come to sound decisions that affect our students in the most positive manner. And that's all.
Thank you, Rhiann. And we round out question 2 with Caleb Guild. What do you believe are the roles and responsibilities of a school board member, and what is your priority?
Well, I think most of the roles and responsibilities, I would agree with most of what has been said, but I think it is to really be an example of what, or a liaison of what is the community, what does it need, what does it want through the school board. The responsibilities, I think, has been mentioned, to support the staff. They've been hired to do a job, and trust that they're doing the best that they can. Support them in the decisions that they've been made, and where need be, offer support or maybe suggestions. But as far as a priority, you know, there's budgets and there's all these things, but the priority, I think, always has to be the education and the safety of the kids. I don't think that can ever be overlooked in any degree, and so to me, that would be my priority as a school board member.
Caleb, thank you. Again, employing our randomizer, we move on to question number 3, and we'll begin with Jenny Welling. Question 3, what is your plan to be accessible to the public as well as to those in the school district you represent?
I feel like I've made myself fairly accessible to anybody that has wanted to talk to me about their concerns in the district, whether it be teachers, staff members, students, parents. I think that we need to be available at any time, whether it be through email, phone calls, texts. I know for a while my husband didn't like me going to Walmart because I would be in there for 2 hours with people stopping me and talking to me about issues that they were passionate about in the district. And so I think we just need to make ourselves readily available, whether we agree or not, and we may or may not, but I'm always available to listen to whatever your concerns are and bring those back to the other school board members and the administrators.
Thank you, Jenny. To Russell Cox, what is your plan to be accessible to the public as well as to those in the school district you represent?
To be accessible would probably be doing just exactly what I did when I ran. I put everything out there. If you go and look, my name's there, my address is there, my email's there, my phone number's there. If you want to talk, I'm very approachable and very easy to talk to. Definitely not going to hold back any of that type of information. Come to my door, come to my house, hit me up on Facebook. You want to Twitter, tweet, it doesn't matter. Like, we can Snapchat. Any of those things would be just fine with me. So I'm easy to get a hold of, and if not, I have a pretty awesome spouse, and she's pretty easy to get a hold of too.
Thank you, Russell. Down to the other end is Susie Erickson. What is your plan to be accessible to the public as well as to those in the school district you represent?
I feel like we might beat this question to death a little bit with our answers, but they're going to get repetitive. Sorry. I am always very accessible. I have a phone number on the gymnasium wall. I believe my email's up there too. But yeah, I'm on Facebook. I don't do any other social media sites. Text me, call me. My husband and I were walking through Smith's the other day, and he made the comment, "Gosh, you know everybody, don't you?" Because I just kept saying hi to people, and people would ask me different things, and I don't know everybody. I would like to. It'd be great. But I just would hope to make people feel like I am approachable. And we can set up meetings or phone calls just about any time, especially after bedtime.
Thank you, Susie. Cassie Torres, what is your plan to be accessible to the public as well as to those in the district you represent?
Pretty much what everybody else has said. I've got an open door policy, call, text, email. I'm there. So I don't want to take more time, but get a hold of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. Rayanne Belknap, what is your plan to be accessible to the public as well as to those in the school district you represent?
Thank you. My plan to be accessible to the public would be my phone number is available on through my baking page, but obviously I'm on Facebook or throughout the community. Anytime can come and talk to me. I hope that you do. I am probably known for asking lots of questions, and that's just how I learned. And as far as inside the district, I want to go and meet our teachers. I want to go and shake hands with them and talk to them and know what works the best for them in their classrooms and find out how I can personally support them in their classrooms. And not breathe down their necks. That wouldn't be my purpose, but to help them understand that I want to learn what it's like to be on that side of the stage. I don't know. And I think that's important to be on the board to understand what it's like to be a teacher in our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Rayanne. We move to Caleb Guild. What is your plan to be accessible to the public as well as to those in the school district you represent?
Well, there again, I think it's, as been voiced, it's pretty well the same as most people. I have a phone. You're welcome to call me, text me, email. If anybody really needs to get a hold of me, I guess you're welcome to come on out and see me at the ranch. I'm available. I really don't consider myself a hard person to talk to, and I really want to take your concerns, whether I agree or disagree. I want to take your concerns and make sure that we come to the best arrangements that we possibly can.
Thank you, Caleb. Krista Barker, what is your plan to be accessible to the public as well as to those in the district you represent?
So I'm probably going to sound a little more bitter than most, I guess, but I really don't give out my cell phone number much. I get extremely overwhelmed with patient calls sometimes, so I limit my cell phone number to those closest to me. I am on Facebook. You can message me. You can email me. I will happily set up a time to meet with you. I only work a few days a week typically, so I can meet up during the weekdays. I'm happy to be in the schools. I would love to go through the schools as well. I think it's important for people to go in and talk to the staff directly. So that's about it. But no, I'm not a big texter and phone caller. So.
Thank you, Krista. We move to Chris Reno. What is your plan to be accessible to the public as well as to those in the school district you represent?
I think that the heart of the question here is participation and hearing people's voices. It's not just how do you do it, but we need to encourage people to contact us one way or another. We need to value people's opinions, and we need to hear their voices. We need to open ourselves up and ask them for their input, not just put our numbers out there. I'll put my number out there. I'll put my email out there. You can text me. All that's fine. But I encourage you to contact me one way or another, any way you can. I apologize. I don't do any social media at all.
Thank you, Chris. And we close out question number 3 with David Peterson. What is your plan to be accessible to the public as well as to those in the school district you represent?
I'm not a very big social media type person. If you want to get a hold of me, my cell phone, but I am more of an interpersonal type person. I like to talk to people face to face. And the other thing that I do, and I just love this community, and I try to attend as many functions as I can. I attend basketball games, football games, the choir concerts, the MAC camp, And at those points, I get to see people in the community. I get to see them during school events, and at that time they have a little more tendency to talk about the current events, what's happening within the school. Like I said, if people want to come to my house, knock on the door, I do have a couple of different emails if they want to approach me that way. But I think just interaction within the community and within the school systems is huge. And I think we need to put ourselves out there and be seen and be recognized as a school board member, and that we care and for everything that's going on within this community.
Thank you, David. And you can keep that mic open as we'll begin question number 4 with you. What is your opinion of the board and district goals listed on the strategic plan, Pathway to Excellence, and what is your level of support?
My level of support is a little bit, how do I put this? My wife is been working in the school system for 30 years. And when they started the PLCs, she was kind of a little bit hesitant. And that's part of one of the strategic plans, and it's part of the safe and collaborative culture. And one of the things that they do is they meet. And she struggled at first having to deal with another 8th grade teacher because she was so set in her ways. But what I found very, very comforting is over the past couple of years, she has figured out the PLCs, and working together has made a big difference in how she teaches and how she approaches kids, and make sure that they stay closely with each other on how they approach the curriculums that are set before them and their students. My support is great. Okay. So.
Thank you, David. Question 4 for Jenny Welling. What is your opinion of the board what is your opinion of the board and district goals listed on the strategic plan, Pathway to Excellence, and what is your level of support?
I'm very supportive of this. We have worked for a long time to get to this point, and it's an extremely vast set of goals, so there's a lot to it, but part of it is a guaranteed and viable curriculum, strong education excellence, safety in the schools. I mean, there's so many different facets of this this pathway to excellence, and I'm very proud of all of the work that our administrators have done and the board in working together to bring this to fruition. And like David, one of the things that I'm most proud of this year is the PLCs and the way that the teachers have been able to come together and work, because I realized that would be difficult. You've been a teacher and you kind of keep all your secrets to yourself because you want to be the very best that you can be, and so I think this was a hard thing for a lot of the teachers to do, but a lot of the feedback that I've been getting from them is that they are very happy with it.
Thank you, Jenny. Question number 4 for Russell Cox. What is your opinion of the board and district goals listed on the strategic plan, Pathway to Excellence, and what is your level of support?
All right, so my level of support of goals is, I fully support goals. It's a great idea. We should all definitely document our goals and work to achieve those. The specifics here within the Pathway of Excellence, although they are highlighted in this piece of paper in front of me, I do not know them in depth. And I have not spoke with enough of the staff, nor teachers, nor am I related to anybody that teaches at any of the schools, so I wouldn't know what they think of it, quite frankly. But I sure would like to have some of that input from them, and any guidance that they may have and what they would think about it for me to probably comment on it further. But as far as goals go, excellent. And then just reading over them, attendance, behavior, accountability, absolutely. Like, who doesn't want that? We'd be silly to not want those types of things for our students and ourselves. And I'm just about out of time, so let's leave it there.
Thank you, Russell. We move on down to the other end to Susie Erickson. What is your opinion of the board and district goals listed on the strategic plan, Pathway to Excellence, and what is your level of support?
I'm actually glad I've had time to read over this a few times, because the first time or two I read it, I thought, gosh, these are really broad, and was kind of hoping that they would be more specific. And the more I read over them, the more specifics pop out at me, so I'm thankful I had a few more minutes to read over them. The board goals, I really like. Guarantee a viable curriculum. but my very favorite one was the emphasis on school safety and security. I know it's a touchy subject, but it's a goal. We want our kids safe, so heck yeah, I fully support these goals. The attendance and behavior, I mean, those are big factors in a child's education. If you're not at school, you're not learning. If you're misbehaving, for one, I think we need to find out a reason why, but I just totally lost my train of thought. But yes, attendance and behavior are very, very important. I support these goals.
Thank you, Susie. We move to Cassie Torres. What is your opinion of the board and district goals listed on the strategic plan, Pathway to Excellence, and what is your level of support?
I highly support all of these goals. When it really comes down to it, it comes down to our kids. And if we continue with these goals and we can achieve these goals, we really will do right by our kids. We will have kids that are coming out of this district ready for college and ready for careers. If we are giving them the best instruction we can, if we're holding everybody accountable to making sure that they're providing that instruction, if we are making sure kids get to school and they're doing what they need to do, they're going to be successful people in the community. That's what we want. And I think that these goals really set up the district in the right direction, and we already produce, I think, the best kids around, and we can always do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. To Rayanne Belknap. Question 4, what is your opinion of the board and district goals listed on the strategic plan, Pathway to Excellence, and what is your level of support?
Thank you. I think these goals are great, and just as important as goals, I would say it's just as important or more important to measure those goals, to measure our success. As I read through this list, one of the things that came to my mind is the viable curriculum and making sure that our students are successful. It makes me ask questions or makes me think of asking questions. One of those might be with our new CKLA program, reading program. It's a great program. I'm really excited to learn more about it. Are we using advanced and or basic programs regarding reading, regarding students learning how to read and phonics? Those are important questions. It comes down to my education, again, in all of these things, and then ensuring that we're measuring those goals, ensuring that students are reaching grade level reading, and that they truly are becoming successful in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rayanne. To Caleb Guild, what is your opinion of the board and district goals listed on the strategic plan, Pathway to Excellence, and what is your level of support?
Looking through these goals, I think there's some great things here. Again, as has already been mentioned, I really love the emphasis on school safety and security and the viable curriculum. You know, I have a kid just starting out in the school system, but I went through the same school system. I went through Evanston. I graduated from Evanston High School. I feel like it was a good experience, and I would want nothing less than that for my kids going through a school experience. And so I think they're great goals, and I think that they're definitely pointed in the right direction, and so I definitely support them.
Thank you, Caleb. We move to Krista Barker. What is your opinion of the board and district goals listed on the strategic plan, Pathway to Excellence, and what is your level of support?
I think the board has, and administrators, teachers, everyone who's helped with this have written really exceptional goals. I am a believer. I think they've done a great job in the safety and security with the Raptor system, with the lock boxes, and pushing toward the concealed carry permits. I think that we're finally starting to track down the viable curriculum, and from what we've discussed, it sounds like we're gonna at least implement this for the next 5 years is kind of the number we're hearing. With the older kids and my middle school kid and my youngest, I've seen a huge change through the curriculum, and kind of feel like my older ones may have gotten a little gypped with what initially had gone on. I think as long as we continue to work for them and hold everybody accountable for the goals, it's going to be very successful.
Thank you, Krista. And we round out question number 4 with Chris Reno. What is your position on this? What is your opinion of the board and district goals listed on the strategic plan, Pathway to Excellence, and what is your level of support?
I think it's an absolutely fantastic roadmap. It really gets to one of my hot button issues. The first core value is safety. If children don't feel safe, if teachers and administrators, staff and faculty and parents don't feel safe to express themselves and feel as though they're in a safe environment, no learning can take place. If you're constantly looking over your shoulder and feeling as though there's something wrong or you can't participate, you just can't learn. I think it's a great way to get things going, make sure that kids feel safe and people feel like they can participate and be part of the community's learning altogether.
Thank you, Chris. We now move to question 5, and we'll begin with Cassie Torres. Question 5. What is your position on the state statute WS 21-3-132 that allows employees to conceal carry in Wyoming schools? And please explain.
Okay, so this is probably going to be one of the most not contentious, but could be divisive questions of the night. So, but I will tell you that when it comes down to the statute and concealed carry in Wyoming schools, I am torn. I can see it really going both ways. I have lots and lots of reservations, so I'm not as gung-ho as a lot of my fellow board members are. But I am dedicated to support the board as a whole when a decision is made. And so that turns around and makes my responsibility to make sure that with any policy that's developed, that we are doing everything we can to make every single situation safe, to look into different scenarios and really be on our A game and make sure everybody's comfortable with it. And I'm done.
Thank you, Cassie. We move to Rayanne Belknap. What is your position on the state statute WS 21-3-132 that allows employees to conceal carry in Wyoming schools? Please explain.
Thank you. I am in full support of this policy, and I had the privilege of talking to Mr. Bennett before the forum, and we were discussing the safety precautions that have been taken thus far in our district, which I think are much needed and great moves on the part of our district. He and I discussed what it might feel like as a teacher to be in a classroom in the horrible situation of an armed shooter. As a teacher who my hope would be in the approval of this policy that's the last line of our defense, that students are not caught in rooms with a teacher and left with nothing to do but to be targets. I think that's vital. Honestly, even with all of those safety precautions that we have in the schools thus far, you can still get into the schools. You can still be buzzed into the schools if someone wants to be buzzed in with a gun. And so that should be our last line of defense, and I am in full support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rayanne. We move to Caleb Guild. What is your position on state statute WS 21-3-132 that allows employees to conceal carry in Wyoming schools? Please explain.
I'm definitely in support of the statute, along with kind of what Mr. Reno was saying earlier. I went to school here, and I never felt in danger. I felt safe. It made it easy to learn. It made it easy to be somewhere. Now, as a parent, I want my kid to feel safe. I want to know that they're in a safe place, that they're being protected when I'm sending them to school. When I was in high school, they had an incendiary device at the high school. It was scary, and I want to know that they're safe. I think what they've done this year with the boxes, I think it's a great step. But I think that if you're going to stop somebody who's carrying, you need somebody who's carrying, and that's my thoughts on it.
Thank you, Caleb. To Krista Barker. What is your position on state statute WS 21-3-132 that allows employees to conceal carry in Wyoming schools? Please explain.
So I don't know know if I've ever actually read this state statute that allows it, but I have read multiple times and looked through the policy that the district has come up with, and I think they've done a really good job. I think they've covered all their bases well. I love that they've put in the Raptor system. I know it's kind of a hassle to get through, but I think it's worth it. I love that they put in the lock boxes, because I know there are a lot of teachers out there that are not comfortable carrying a gun, and I certainly would not want to see them carrying a gun. I want to know that whoever has one is 100% comfortable in doing so. But they've given other teachers the opportunity with the lock boxes. You know, I think they trained them well. I think they allowed them to explore what was in those boxes and train them on how to use it, and that's really important. So I think the district has done a good job, and I'll probably have to go back and read the statute. So.
Thank you, Krista. We move to Chris Reno. What is your position on state statute WS 21-3-132 that allows employees to conceal carry in Wyoming schools? Please explain.
Let me start by saying that I do personally have a carry permit, and I do often carry, not tonight, but I do often carry. I too spoke to Mr. Bennett before this evening's event, and I confessed to him that I may be a little bit of a Pollyanna, that I believe that if we reach out to the community, if we invest in each other, and if we solicit opinions, solicit input, and hear the voices of the other people in the community, hopefully we can prevent people from feeling like they have to resort to violence. Again, maybe a little bit of a Pollyanna, but I think that we need to encourage people to participate on the front end to prevent this from happening on the back end. That said, it may happen on the back end, and I would feel comfortable having a teacher in the classroom with a gun if it came to that. I hope it doesn't, but.
Thank you, Chris. To David Peterson, what is your position on state statute WS 21-3-132 that allows employees to conceal carry in Wyoming schools? Please explain.
Of our babies just died. That's 30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. 30 seconds. 7 to 10 minutes for response time from first responders. What are we going to do to protect our babies? What are we going to do to keep evil out of our schools? What deterrent do we have? The Raptor and block boxes are great, but if there's that fear and that knowledge that we are carrying, it might deter other people.
Thank you, David. To Jenny Welling, what is your position on state statute WS 21-3-132 that allows employees to conceal carry in Wyoming schools? Please explain.
I think I've made this known to just about everybody. I'm in full support of this policy. As a school board, we have worked very long and hard on making sure that we looked at every aspect of this legislation, and I just think that we need to be proactive instead of reactive. In my opinion, I think it's not a question of if, it's when. And I don't want to be a school district that has to look back at a situation and say, I wish we would have done more. I think we've been very proactive in doing the Safe Defend lock boxes and the Raptor system, but I agree with Mr. Guild. If someone is determined to get into a school with a gun, they will enter the school, whether or not you have all these systems in place. And I agree that I think the only person that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Thank you, Jenny. To Russell Cox, what is your position on state statute WS 21-3-132 that allows employees to conceal carry in Wyoming schools? Please explain.
I'm a huge supporter of our Second Amendment. I'm also a supporter of Wyoming Statute 21-3-132. The district's policy currently that they've been working on implementing to allow staff to carry in schools, I also support that. The the notion that we could stop somebody without a properly trained person with a firearm is, well, you can eventually, but the time that it takes, just as you'd mentioned, is some critical time. The people knowing and people understanding that our staff do carry, or they can, so they very well may, could very well prevent that type of incident. Even though I also realize the potential and statistic potential of that happening is extremely low. So is me getting in an accident, and I still wear my seatbelt.
Thank you, Russell. And finally, for question number 5 to Susie Erickson, what is your position on state statute WS 21-3-132 that allows employees to conceal carry in Wyoming schools? Please explain.
I'm 100% in favor for it. I have a motto that's kind of passed down from my family. If you know me at all, you'll hear me refer to my dad all the time. Sorry. A motto is refuse to be a victim. I refuse to be a victim. I refuse for my kids to be victims. Another thing he always said was never leave home without a knife. I don't have one tonight. It's in my car, but you just always have to be prepared. You never know when you're going to need something like that. And you don't want to find out at the wrong time. And I just think if you can save a child by concealed carrying, do it. And key word here is concealed. Nobody knows you have it. You know, other kids don't know, other teachers don't know, administration I think would know, but I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Susie. We now begin with question 6, and we'll start this one off with Caleb Guild. Question 6 is, what are 2 things you believe our district does well and 2 things you think the district needs to improve?
I got to be honest with you, all these questions, that's the one I did not want to be asked first. And I'll be completely honest with you, my kids just barely started, and so as far as looking into the school systems, I'm relatively new to it, but I believe that the school district does a good job of hiring, I think, qualified teachers that are from the area. I think when you get people who are invested in the community, I think you find better and a higher quality of education. The other thing is I think that the steps that are being made to take care of our kids, I don't think there's anything more important than that, than the education and safety of our children. I think that's the bottom line, and I think they do a great job. As far as things that they need to improve, you know, like I said, I'm relatively inexperienced as far as the school district so far, but that's most of my comments tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. To Krista Barker, what are 2 things you believe our district does well and 2 things you think the district needs to improve?
So I think we have amazing teachers. I think teachers, paras, everything. I think our district has done a really good job at hiring and then retaining those teachers. I also think that the communication is improved significantly. The transparency is improving significantly. I think you've listened to what the community has asked for and are really working hard to improve those things that we all desired. I think a couple of the things that can be worked on, again, I'm a hands-on girl. I think these kids need to get into the chemistry lab. I think they need to do experiments. I think they need to learn anatomy by cutting into a pig or whatever the case is. You know, I think they need hands-on learning. And our school lunches. So I think we fluctuate, and people kind of know how I feel about that. That's it.
Thank you, Krista. Chris Reno, question 6. What are 2 things you believe our district does well and 2 things you think the district needs to improve?
I think that the district has done a good job of securing the physical safety of the kids right now. At least we made some real good strides, real good first attempts at that. I think that there's always room for improvement in creating a safe emotional environment for the kids. And there's also always room for creating more encouragement for participation from the entire community, all of the stakeholders involved, not necessarily just parents, but everyone involved, people who are pre-parents, people who are post-parents. I think getting the entire community involved is important, and rallying around the schools so that we can create a learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We next go to David Peterson. What are 2 things you believe our district does well, and 2 things you think the district needs to improve?
I don't know where to start. This school district has afforded me and my family great opportunities. My wife, my children, the education that they receive, the extracurricular activities that they are involved in, I think we do a phenomenal job. I think the PLCs is one of the things that they do real well. I think they implemented that, and I think the communication between teachers has improved since they've implemented it. The other thing I think we do real well is there's some phenomenal people. I think this district, you know, I commented on that I'm a 5th generation person, but I'm not a person that does not recognize individuals that have been brought into this community. And I believe that we've grafted people into this community that are just absolutely amazing, and entrusted my children into their education, and I think the future is very bright for the people that are here, and the administration is here. And the things that I think they need to work on, scheduling. Thank you.
Thank you, David. To Jenny Welling. What are 2 things you believe our district does well, and 2 things you think the district needs to improve?
As I've stated before, it's really hard to narrow it down to a few things, but I too am really proud of the PLC work that our teachers have been doing, the curriculum work that they've been doing, our staff with providing the materials. That was a really big endeavor this year to get all of those English materials out. I think we are exceptional with our technology, and that's thanks to Jaron Dennis. Matt Williams with our special education department. I mean, I could go on and on naming different directors and staff members that I think that have just gone over and above, you know, what they're called on to do. As far as things that we could improve on, we can always improve on communication. I think we've constantly been working on that. Jaron is constantly coming up with different ways that we can communicate better. And I agree with Krista. You know, I think we could improve on getting more hands-on stuff. I'm an art major, so I would love to see more of that.
Thank you, Jenny. To Russell Cox. What are 2 things you believe our district does well, and 2 things you think the district needs to improve?
One of the things that our district does well, and I don't know if that's administration, the teachers and staff, or maybe actually just our community as a whole. If you've ever been to a Friday night football game, I tell you what, like this entire community really supports what we're doing out there and what those kids are doing. I was never involved in sports and whatnot when I was a child, but I've seen it carry my son in ways that are absolutely phenomenal. So, you know, I don't even know who was really responsible for that, but that's something that I would say that we're definitely doing a great job in that aspect. Something else that we do really well, or it seems like we do really well, is spending. It seems like we can spend absolutely every penny that we drag in, and something that I'd like to maybe change or something that maybe we don't do so well is the accountability or understanding where all that spending's going and what we are doing with that money that shows up. Something else, or things that I would like to see change.
Thank you, Russell.
Oh, sorry.
We go to the other end to Susie Erickson. What are 2 things you believe our district does well, and 2 things you think the district needs to improve?
So one of the big things that's big with me is I think our teachers are awesome. You know, there's always 1 or 2 that you don't get along, but the majority, our teachers, are just freaking awesome. There's no other way to put it. And also the paras that come into the schools, they're great. They all have their own little niche, and we've found that niche and we've put them where they need to be. Another thing that I really, really like is our math program that we've got going on right now in our elementary school. The difference between the math my sophomore had when he was in elementary school and the math that my little Ruby just happened to hit it right at the right time when that was the first year, it's awesome. big difference. I love the new math program. A couple things that we need to improve on. Oh, I have another positive. I love that our kids can get into a program, football for instance, and not pay a dime. Just walk out there and participate.
Thank you, Susie.
Sorry.
Cassie Torres, what are 2 things you believe our district does well and 2 things you think the district needs to improve?
I believe, number one, our district, every single employee is passionate about our kids. They are here for the kids and they will do absolutely anything for them. I love the changes that that we put in place, that the changes are really coming from the bottom up, and we're really trying to listen to the employees that are there day in and day out dealing with our kids in the classroom. I think one thing we've also done well in the last several years is improve on communication. We really have tried to do everything we can to get information out there and to get information back in. On the flip side, what we can do better is improve communication. There's always room for growth. One of my goals 4 years ago when I ran is to get a full boardroom like this at every single meeting, and we haven't figured it out. And we need to figure it out. We need people here. We need to hear you. And I'm done with time. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. And we end off question 6 with Rayanne Belknap. What are 2 things you believe our district does well and 2 things you think the district needs to improve?
Thank you. I do believe our teachers give their best effort at the very least. I think that they're giving their blood and sweat and tears to our students. That would be the first thing. The second thing that the district does well on a personal level for me as a parent, teachers and administrators listen to me well. That's a hard task. I know that. I'm a very passionate person. And they drop their feelings at the door and listen to my concerns regarding my children and every other child in the district. And I ask them for not just my child, but for your children also. Just my driving force is our children's ability to read. So I'm going to quickly throw out some numbers to you really fast. Our children, the highest in NWEA scores in the last 3 years is 66% proficient in advanced readers in our district. The lowest was 44% in our district proficient in advanced. Last year, our highest was 62%.
Thank you, Rayanne.
Thank you.
What are the odds of this happening twice in one night? We'll begin question number 8, or question 7 rather, with Rayanne Belknap. What are your budget priorities for Uintah County School District number 1? You'll have 30 seconds to answer.
My goodness, this is hard. That the budget cuts are the furthest from our students and our teachers. The budget, if we're going to cut, it has to be cut across the board. We can't cut teachers and have it hit the classroom and not have it hit our administrators or, anything else in the district. It has to be level, evenly broadcast within the district. If our students truly are the most important to us, we'll keep it from the classroom. We'll do all we can to keep cuts from affecting our students.
Thank you, Rayanne. To Caleb Guild, what are your budget priorities for Uintah County School District number 1?
I think I just have to echo that as well. I think I understand that budget cuts are coming, and I think that the one that cannot take the cut is the kids, their safety and their education. And I think we do have great teachers, and I think that that education starts with great teachers, and those teachers get hired by a great administration. So I agree, though. I think if it has to happen, I think you try to keep it away from what the goal is here, and I think that's the kids' education and safety.
Thank you, Caleb. To Krista Barker, what are your budget priorities for Uintah County School District number 1?
I think it's retaining our frontline staff. We had a talk when we did our luncheon for the school board candidates about that Utah's caught up with us as far as teaching salaries, that we used to far exceed them and be able to capture all the good teachers, and now we're falling behind in that. Same with our paras. My little 16-year-old is making $11.50 an hour at Walmart. I'm not sure what the paras are making, but they deserve to be making more than those people. So,
thank you, Krista. To Chris Reno, what are your budget priorities for Uintah County School District number 1?
This district has a $40 million a year budget, and 80% of it is salaries. There are only so many levers that you can actually pull. Every year, I have to develop and get past a $100 million operating and capital expense budget. The only way to do it right is to examine every single line by line, and cut out what needs to be cut out.
Thank you, Chris. To David Peterson, what are your budget priorities for Uinta County School District number 1?
I think the district's doing pretty good on balancing a budget for what they have. You know, at the end of the year, they're still in pretty good shape. I think that we need to save where we can save in case there becomes a rainy day. I work for the state of Wyoming, and I think the monies need to go to those people that educate. We just went to a job fair up in North Dakota, South Dakota. Our salaries are not enticing at all. As we were up there trying to incorporate engineers, not one application for the state of Wyoming that came across because of budgetary reasons.
Thank you, David. To Jenny Welling, what are your budget priorities for Uinta County School District number 1?
I can tell you that with the current board that we have, first and foremost come the students and our staff. We've worked really hard with the budget cuts coming down from the state and losing enrollment, so we're not getting as much funding as we used to. That the first priority has been that there are no teachers that lose their jobs, and so we have worked really hard to try and do things through attrition, move people around, you know, after people retire. I think we've been extremely fiscally responsible in watching, you know, the superintendent has been watching this for years and preparing for the cuts.
Thank you, Jenny. To Russell Cox, what are your budget priorities for Uinta County School District number 1?
Budget priorities would be, I mean, we'd all like to say it's absolutely, it's the kids comes first, but the kids aren't absorbing the majority of that money. So our staff would be the number one concern for the sake of the kids. But wasteful spending, and from the outside looking in, it might be a little bit more easy to nitpick and say this looks like wasteful spending, but I sure would like to have an opportunity to see where I believe that's at.
Thank you, Russell. To Susie Erickson, what are your budget priorities for Uinta County School District number 1?
My budget priorities would be first and foremost to take care of our teachers. They're very important. There's just no way of getting around it. Another priority would be just to use what we already have. Sometimes we're going out buying new things when really there's something that we have that we can reuse, or, you know, find a way to stretch it out, make 1 gallon of milk last into 2. We can do that.
Thank you, Susie. And finally, to Cassie Torres for question number 7. What are your budget priorities for Uinta County School District number 1?
I'll echo pretty much what everybody else has said, but it really would be to take care of our employees, every single one of our employees. We also have to make sure that we are providing all of our employees and our teachers with all of the tools that they need to make sure that they are providing that viable curriculum to every student. Hopefully, an addition is that we would not be having to cut any established programs that we already have.
Thank you, Cassie. We now move on to question number 8, and we will begin with Chris Reno. Question 8. Once a decision is made by the entire board, how are you going to support that decision even if you did not vote in favor of it?
I went to a military college, and I learned pretty early on that when it comes to decision making, you listen to others, you get their opinions, you get their input, you develop your opinion and your decision. You advocate for your decision and your opinion as much as you can, as long as you can, as hard as you can. But when the floor for debate is closed, it's closed. When the decision is made, it's made. You fall in lockstep behind, and you move forward, and you make it happen.
Thank you, Chris. David Peterson.
This one's kind of tough for me a little bit. I'm kind of playing the devil's advocate on a lot of things, and so if there's something that comes up, I always try to take the opposite side. So just to spark some conversations. But I am in full support. I understand that it is a board and we're supposed to work as a unit. We're not going to be made up of 9 individuals. We're made up of 9 individuals, but we act as one. And once there is a vote on policy or whatever the case may be, we need to be completely supportive of it. I'm like Mr. Reno here. I agree that you need to come in with your opinions and fight for them. And I think everybody should. I think everybody has the chance to speak their mind, but once the decision is made, we need to support each other and this community and move forward and not drag it out and not put it out into the public and try to get negative feedback to support whatever opinion you may have. So I think that that is key to act as a single unit.
Thank you, David. Jenny Welling. Once a decision is made by the entire board, how are you going to support that decision even if you did not vote in favor of it?
I think it's really important that we do have a 9-member board and not all of us think the same. I think it's very important that we bring in different perspectives. We can have discussions as rational adults. And there have been a lot of times that, you know, we get into our meetings and we don't agree. But at the end of the day, once the vote comes down, as David said, we need to become, you know, one board and be in support of that and not be nitpicking out in the community after that. Even if we don't agree, we need to be unified in that decision and then support it fully.
Thank you, Jenny. To Russell Cox, once a decision is made by the entire board, how are you going to support that decision even if you did not vote in favor of it?
Well, as much as I'd like to say that I would, I probably wouldn't, quite frankly. So if I didn't agree, and although it should be a one board and we should all come together and have one decision, if the feedback that I'm getting is that it's not really in our best interest or the community's not so interested, I really couldn't say that I would join in and hold hands and sing Kumbaya with everybody, but that is definitely me.
Thank you, Russell. Down to the other end, to Susie Erickson. Once a decision is made by the entire board, how are you going to support that decision even if you did not vote in favor of it?
I'm going to agree to disagree with the board. I would like to get behind the board and maybe try to find one little positive out of the situation and kind of give my feedback on, even if it's just a fraction of, you know, what I disagree on. Maybe always try to find a little piece that I could support and offer my advice to be more supportive of it.
Thank you, Susie. Cassie Torres, once a decision is made by the entire board, how are you going to support that decision even if you did not vote in favor of it?
The board has no power unless it's whole. We're 9 members, but we only can act as a whole unit. Once a decision is made, I will support the board as a whole, but it's also my responsibility to make sure that when we're making those decisions, that I'm able to present my opinion and reflect the community's opinion on whatever we're deciding. So every single board member has that information to make an informed decision. It's not persuading, it's just informing. And a lot of times those decisions after the board is made, it's not a done deal. Once things start to be implemented, we are still responsible to continue to give input. And it may be a situation that I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm going to support the board, but I can still have continued conversations about things that I may not disagree, and things could change or go differently.
Thank you, Cassie. Rayanne Belknap, once a decision is made by the entire board, how are you going to support that decision even if you did not vote in favor of it?
This is a great question, and I assume that there may be instances where I don't agree and I vote against things or something. However, in the case where the board we all cast our votes, I will support what we're voting on, whether I agree with it or not. However, because I like to ask questions and I'm a learner, I want to get the feedback of the public. I'm hoping that if I'm elected on, that the public and the teachers will feel like they can come to me and talk to me about their concerns, and that I can take that back to the board, and that further discussions can take place, and we can learn together as a board. I'm not perfect, I'm far from perfect, but I love to learn, and I can always improve, and I think the same can be said for our board. Thank you.
Thank you, Rayanne. Caleb Guild. Once a decision is made by the entire board, how are you going to support that decision even if you did not vote in favor of it?
And on this question, I agree with Ms. Torres. You know, there are obviously some things that we're going to disagree on. Not everybody has the same thought process as everyone else, and thank goodness, you know, we're all different for reasons. But I think that there's obviously ways that you can support and still have your opinions. I mean, it's not wrong to have your opinions. That being said, I would support the board if a decision is made. Let's face it, if there's not support there, we don't get anything accomplished. And so you're just spinning your wheels, not really doing anything if you're not supporting and getting things moving. And so I would, if that decision was made, I would support.
Thank you, Caleb. Finally, to Krista Barker. Once a decision is made by the entire board, how are you going to support that decision, even if you did not vote in favor of it?
So I think the best we can do is seek out information, you know, try to get all the information first, listen to others' opinions, be respectful, but at the end of the day, if the majority of the board votes against what you agree with, you're just going to have to sit down and wait. You got to see how things play out, and if it comes up again, reiterate your thoughts and your point of views.
Thank you, Krista. Well, we started this direction, we went random, and now we're going to go back the other way. We'll begin with Russell Cox. Question 9 will also include your closing statement, and the question is, if elected, what would you hope would be the district's key accomplishments during your years of service?
Key accomplishments, I'd like to see the district continue with transparency and accountability between administration, staff, and the community. Be able to get our community as involved as possible, be able to fill this room with people and questions and emotion and thoughts and input so that the board can make good decisions that we really can, that we all feel comfortable in making and doing what the community really wants us to do here. In doing that, then, you know, then the last question probably wouldn't even be an issue because we'd all be up here doing exactly why we're running. We'd be trying to bring the community exactly what they're asking for.
Thank you, Russell. To Jenny Welling, if elected, what do you hope would be the district's key accomplishments during your years of service?
I would hope that we are able to continue to be fiscally responsible with the budget. I think we've done a really good job up to this point. We talked about it earlier, but we are starting to fall behind Utah. We need to come up with ways to try and have more competitive salaries so that we can maintain the wonderful staff that we have, but also bring in good quality teachers when we need them. Continue with the guaranteed and viable curriculum. Yeah, I think we're headed in the right direction, and I want to help continue on that path.
Thank you, Jenny. To David Peterson, if elected, what do you hope would be the district's key accomplishments during your years of service?
The thing I'd like to see is, I spoke on this at the very beginning, is similar to some partnerships. I mean, there's some big players that are involved with the school district. We have our staff, we have support staff, we have administration, we have the parents, we have the students, and we need to learn to communicate well with each other and improve upon those things that are good and eliminate those things that are not working so good. I had an individual come into me one time, and I was doing an employee evaluation, and he sat down before me, and I was rating him from a 1 to 5, and he slid it in front of me, and he had a 5. And I said, looked at him, and I said, so you're telling me you're perfect in everything? And he goes, well, yeah, I do my job well. And I says, well, maybe you should reevaluate what you're thinking. And I think we need to make sure that we don't settle for less than we can be. We need to keep improving and keep improving on those things that we do well. The other thing is a healthy community, a healthy school district. And I think we need to have both of them involved with each other.
Thank you, David. To Chris Reno, if elected, what do you hope would be the district's key accomplishments during your years of service?
I believe that certain rights were bestowed upon us by the Creator himself. Chief among them, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I believe that safety falls within that realm. I believe that we should open ourselves up and that we should make a safe environment for all, not just physically, but emotionally, to express ourselves. Students, teachers, parents, staff, faculty, administration, everyone. If you vote for me, I will fight for you and fight with you to create a safe environment that balances input from all.
Thank you, Chris. To Krista Barker, if elected, what do you hope would be the district's key accomplishments during your years of service?
So I would hope that the Pathway to Excellence goals, you know, both board goals and district goals were met. I think if you meet those goals, we're exceeding in all around. I want mainly to see my kids and your kids grow up to be well-rounded and successful people in life, and I think that's our ultimate goal.
Thank you, Krista. To Caleb Guild, if elected, what do you hope would be the district's key accomplishments during your years of service?
I would have to echo a lot of what's already been said. I think they pretty well covered a lot of what I was thinking. These goals, I think, are fantastic. I think if they're attained, I think that would be a great start towards basically what are my key things that I'm thinking of, and that's the safety of the kids and their education, retaining good teachers. I think we do have great teachers, and that goes back to the education of my kid. And along with that, I think a big part of this board and then the accomplishments is I just would like to see that there's no agendas. I know I'm certainly that way. I don't have an agenda while I'm here. I don't. I want what's best for the community. I want what's best for our kids and the education of our kids.
Thank you, Caleb. We move to Rayanne Belknap. If elected, what do you hope would be the district's key accomplishments during your years of service?
Thank you. I do have an agenda, and that is your student and mine. The most concerning thing to me in our district is our reading scores and reading levels. And I understand that teachers might take that and go, wait a minute, I'm working hard and doing the best I can. I do not think it's the fault of our teachers. I believe that we have to have the correct tools in our district to make sure that our students are reading proficiently really well at an early age, that they're given the tools to learn phonemic awareness, advanced phonemic awareness, not just basic. I want to advocate for parents who may feel hopeless like I did 3 years ago when my child literally could not read and could not write. And that's a totally different story that I hope to talk about later. I want to educate myself and find out how I can further support the teachers in our district and make sure that we really are utilizing the best curriculums that are working for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Rayanne. To Cassie Torres. If elected, what do you hope would be the district's key accomplishments during your years of service?
I hope the district's key accomplishments would be that we have obtained these goals in our Pathway of Excellence, that we've hit our accountability, our instruction, our attendance, and our behavior, and we are challenging ourselves even more. And we're able to move into new grounds and be even better, so we are able to prepare our children even better for the real world. Through that, I hope we're fully certified with the high reliability schools, and I do want to see this boardroom full every single meeting. It's been 4 years. It may take me another 4 years, but that's what I want to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. And Susie, we'll get to you in just a moment. We do have a closing statement that I will read on behalf of Mindy Swenson. I chose to run for a position on our school board because I have a desire to help our district strive to always do better. When it comes to our kids, the next generation, it is never good enough that you can stop trying to improve. I desire the children in our school district to have the best educational opportunities that can be provided with the current resources. I have respect and a positive outlook on many things in the district while recognizing there are still things that need a great deal of improvement. I will strive to be the kind of and considerate of everyone and can honestly say I will do my best to help everyone work together to improve our schools. I understand the role and purpose of a school board member and will work hard to serve well. I would appreciate your vote. And now to Susie to end things off for us. If elected, what do you hope would be the district's key accomplishments during your years of service?
Well, I would hope that all these goals are met. And once they are met, I would hope to maintain this viable curriculum, keep it going, keep it growing. I would also like to see our budget in check so that we don't have to worry about these things. I'd like to have, you know, someone mentioned a rainy day fund. I would like to get there with a budget-wise. And I'd also like to keep these kids happy and excited about school by doing more hands-on stuff, not taking things away that they love, art programs and music programs. We've got to keep them excited and where they love to get up in the morning and go to school, because it's important. And one thing I would like to say in my closing statement is, if elected, one thing about me is that you never have to wonder what I think. I will flat out tell you what I think. I'm not one to sugarcoat things. I do have tact, but you won't get any surprises out of me.
Thank you, Susie. Ladies and gentlemen, your UNT County School District #1 school board candidates. Thank you, candidates, and good luck in the election. Remember, a recording of the forum can be found on a link on the district's website at uinta1.com. Have a great night, everyone. Well, thank you.